We have a,
I think you better.
yeah.
You're recorded now.
All right, so I assume nobody's on, right? Is anybody on? the Zoom?
Nobody's on.
Okay.
And I'll just say, thanks, everybody, and this is the first time that I can remember since I've gotten involved in the town board where we have a full suite of members for the review board, so thank you all. Great.
Great, yes, thank you all for being here. In general, besides just tonight, so. Well, I'll call the meeting to order, I guess. Is someone willing to take notes?
I can do that.
That would be great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Welcome, new member already. Wow.
Great, so. Especially because there's nobody on the Zoom meeting, my hope tonight was to. Obviously review the subdivision law and the revisions that were suggested or are in the document that we were given to review. I don't want to get in the weeds of typos and copy editing anything. I would like to take the big picture, look at things, and what do we see are, potential problems, whether they're logistical problems or contradictions or just procedural stuff that, since we've gone through it a little bit, not necessarily in a subdivision so much as, although we have done one or two. But it is sort of a similar process to site plan review too, so. Anyway, I'm happy to open it up to anybody. I mean, well, first of all, whenever we're referring to something, let's refer to sections and not pages, because I did notice the pages get messed up somewhere along the line.
Oh, yeah.
So sections would be easier to follow through. And if anybody has anything early on that they want to start with, we could just start with that and then could move through the document in sections.
Okay. And before we get started, I'll apologize because some of the stuff I have, I'm not sure we should even be, some of the stuff I have, I'm not sure we should be even. But there's some things I thought I should bring up just as I read it and thought about it. First one is on section 101, the first page 4. The second paragraph, where it goes down to, and it says the review board.
Yeah.
The review board in the town of Caroline is authorized to empower or to approve lot line adjustments. And, later on in the law, like page 8, it says lot lines have to be surveyed and done. I'm just wondering if we should include that there or just leave it as is.
Well, so this brings up,
We're not empowered to do it until it's surveyed and done.
yeah, so my understanding of this section is just authority
Okay.
in relation to the law.
Okay.
But it does bring up a broader question, I think, of the law did not include us reviewing lot line adjustments. And now it does include us reviewing lot line adjustments. Personally, I feel like that's something that should be done on a staff level. And assuming there's gonna be somebody doing zoning staff. Or what, like there is a staff member that's going to interact with applications and or dealing with zoning before it even gets to the BZA or a project gets to the review board. And something like a lot line adjustment, which is literally looking at the old survey versus the new survey and approving it. I feel like something like that should be done at a staff level and not take up our time. But
So I happen to completely agree with you. And I've been involved personally with many lot line adjustments. And waiting for a review board can be really problematic. Because typically those lot line adjustments come up whenever you're trying to transfer a piece of property or something, and then you know about it, so you contact the code officer to give them the information you need, where the survey is done, and it happens within 2 days. And then you can go ahead with the closing, whatever you need to do. But waiting for a review board to come together once a month. Yeah, that's a big, I think that's gonna really make a big difference in the community, and lot line adjustments are fairly commonly done. And other than trying to, if the lot line adjustment is such that it's making a lot too small to be used for. But that doesn't mean the review board has to look at that. Anybody that's in an administrative role can know what the minimum lot size is and realize it doesn't make it. And then not allow the lot size to go, the line adjustment to go through. So anyways, I completely agree with you. I think this should not come before the review board. I think it's an administrative detail.
Yeah, I agree with you too, but there also later on in this document, there is a statement in there about if the lot is not compliant already, that it can be changed, it can be done. And I put a question mark by that. So we'll look at that when we get to that page, but it's very,
Meaning that you can't create a lot that's not conforming to zoning.
no,
Zoning
it's already a non-conforming lot.
Oh, well, that
And you
too.
can change the, yeah, that's what it says.
And it doesn't become an issue.
Right,
It's still, if it was previously allowed as non-conforming, it's still allowed as non-conforming.
As long as you're not making the condition worse.
that's what,
Yes.
yes, what it says.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
So I probably should have started by saying, so I,
hang them all together.
But typically, if somebody's doing that, they're also going through site plan review. And site plan review, I feel like, is where we have. Maybe not a stronger footing, but like is often where we are. Looking at all of that stuff more closely than just the subdivision. But again, I don't really understand how the two. Laws are working together, because now site plan review is wrapped into zoning.
It is in zoning, yeah.
Yeah, so then it's sort of, they're kind of working together, but they're also overlapping in places. That seems a little redundant to me, but. I don't know how to deal with it, to be honest.
Let me see if I understand this, because I haven't done this part before. So somebody might come to you and say, I have a 25-acre parcel, and I just want to create several new parcels, and I'll be selling them. That's my plan to individuals, and
Right.
it's on their head, right? So because of the minimum, the divided by 3, essentially, you could have up to 8 parcels, and this person could create 8 or create 6 or 5 or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think, so your question is, or what we're talking about is, these things like open provisions for recreation, et cetera, don't really apply.
Right.
Because it's merely somebody dividing their property into, and the way the zoning law is written, once that's been done, if somebody gets the 8 parcels out, that's done. It's like you're done, right? So, and it might get all sold to one person, who then would come to you with a subdivision plan of
Yeah,
creating
maybe.
something, or it could be sold to 8 individual people, right? So it probably is important to sort of say that in here in some way, like if this is merely this, dividing a property into permissible lots,
Mhm.
these are the things that we should consider. If not, if it's an actual creating, problem is the wording here is so complicated.
Yep,
Creating a housing subdivision,
right,
then these are the things that should be considered.
right. In my head, it has been two very different things that kept sort of crossing over each other as I was reading through this. Is that sometimes you have subdivision. I think traditionally you have subdivision in a more neighborhood setting, but in the last 15-20 years, mostly what we're seeing is property just subdivided into parcels that are then getting sold off. So it's sort of a different thing, and I don't know how to reconcile that within this law.
Yeah.
It must be.
Was this an issue before zoning?
I don't think so, because here, up until now, we haven't had neighborhoods created. The largest thing is Schickle,
Right.
is Bruno, but he owns all of that.
Right,
So it's not a subdivision.
right.
Really?
But I can,
It's like the most subdivision looking thing I've ever seen.
in the traditional neighborhood sense of
Yeah.
subdivision,
Right.
yes, but it's
But it's not
one,
subdividing a plot.
no, it's
wow.
one parcel. He
Yeah.
owns it all, so it's
Yeah.
not
I
subdivision.
lived there for a year.
Yeah.
Did you have a dog? Because you're required to have a dog.
I remember, the funny thing is that before in Newburgh, I was looking for housing and couldn't find housing that allowed a dog, no matter what dog. And Aaron's like, oh, my wife's like, I wonder if we're gonna be able to get here. And I'm like, the rule is you can't have more than 3.
Yeah.
What else? And I was like, that's the whole rule.
I think, having gone door to door there occasionally, I think you have to have a dog.
I know,
That's what I want.
Yeah, I'm a dog person, but.
So I don't think it's been a problem here so far, because we haven't nobody's done traditional subdivisions. I could see it happening in the near future. So we have to potentially accommodate for it.
Right,
Uh,
but I think that what I'm hearing is that it might make sense to say, if you're just dividing your property and there is no plan for you or at this point of the purchaser to create a housing subdivision, then these are the things that we should consider. Otherwise,
Right.
then you get into the longer part of the law.
I think that makes a lot of
Right.
sense.
So I'm gonna stick that under recommendations and we can come back and go over these.
Great.
Good deal.
Section 105.
Up and running.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just had, it's nothing, I probably can go right by it, forget it.
Okay. 106. We haven't even gotten any definitions yet, so. Alright, so 106 is definitions.
Yeah,
Anything major in?
I didn't check them all, but I went back and looked
Yeah.
at a bunch of them and they're consistent with the zoning law, which
right.
seems
I
to be.
got one under C,
Sure.
under definitions, that the first page 5. Just said something about in the end, in the last sentence says. Practices that allowed land use for agriculture activity to be. Fallow. For a period not exceeding 5 consecutive years. I was just wanted to explain that to me, what this means.
Sure.
Because it goes through the whole. What can be done
So
agriculture,
essentially a fallow field is one that there's been no activity on.
right, but it doesn't, it just says
So that's considered to be a farming operation,
if it's left fallow for 5 years.
up to 5 years.
Okay, because that's what I was wondering, it doesn't really, it just says if you leave it for up to 5 years, but it doesn't go on and say. So it's just considered agriculture if it's left fallow for 5 years, that's what that
So
means.
somebody comes in and they wanna do a development and they see this field that's fallow. Of course, they just coming to the area, they haven't lived here all their life,
Okay,
and they see this and they go, well, this is not an agricultural operation. and
right. Okay,
They can find out differently.
gotcha, that's what I just kind of. Okay,
This, I had just a question, and probably a naive question, but what is a driveway? I was wondering if a driveway should be defined as I was looking through,
There was somewhere in here that
Yeah.
talked about a driveway of 500 feet and was
Yeah.
trying to decide, do they mean 500 feet along the road, which is a lot,
yeah,
or 500 feet deep? And I could not figure, like going into my property.
Going into the property off the road.
there's a whole section on driveways, and I was thinking, what's the difference between a driveway and a private road? So, because there's private roads that are talked about with handle them versus,
Mhm.
I didn't know if there's a definition of what is a driveway.
well,
Well, if a road private is a street or road sharing more than 4 lots, is a driveway one that only serves one?
right,
I'm sorry,
But-
what was that?
So I'm looking at the road private definition and it says any street or road serving more than 4 lots. And so I'm wondering if a driveway is just a road that serves only 1 lot.
Or less than.
Oh,
Less
less
than
than,
4, yeah.
So maybe if we
And-
put that in a definition, just so it's clear.
And that does correlate to building code also, in that if you have a driveway that serves 4 or more houses, then the fire truck access is different. It has to be a wider road.
So that would be a
and
private
stuff like
road,
that.
I guess.
there is a
So-
section though with shared driveway.
Your building code does not always correlate to zoning as far as definitions, unfortunately, ideally it does, but. The fact that they don't define it might be a good thing, in that. What we have to refer back to is building code,
Building code, yeah.
for it. Cause if it's not defined otherwise, then
Then we just.
then
revert
that's
to
what
that.
we should, because. Because they, I guess ultimately, that's what they're looking for a building permit, somebody is probably, right? And so before they can get the building permit, they have to go through zoning or subdivision review or site plan review or whatever. And so there's no definition for some of these things, it might be good, because then the building code and whatever we're using for this
I
judgment
see.
would be the same.
Mhm, that makes sense. Good.
I apologize for him, but there is a section later on about driveways, but while we're on driveways, D under that section 4. It's under building envelope, it has driveway included in the building envelope.
Yeah.
Should the driveway be included in that building envelope? I'm just,
I think maybe in, forget where it's referred, there was some place that referred to the building envelope and it made
Right.
sense at that point, but I don't remember if I was thinking of it as a driveway.
What section are you in? I'm,
4,
It's,
on page 6, D,
okay.
What?
building envelope, under building envelope. This is what they sent me, and
Okay,
it
Oh, I
has,
see.
it has
I
driveway
see what you're
on
saying.
it. I mean, I understand the well, septic and the rest of it, but.
Yeah, I don't
wasn't
remember
sure
how it
about
was
driveway.
used. Well, so that's, we can flag that where we see it. We'll
Okay.
just make sure the driveway fits or doesn't fit. Or we can kind of come back. I don't know, section E, what is this? So this is. Section 106 definitions, 3 definitions, and then E is character, community character,
Mhm.
and rural character.
mhm.
Yep.
And I don't. None of this makes any sense for me to have, in here, like, I just don't. It's so vague.
This is a section that I flagged that has to deal with zoning and site plan review and has nothing to
Yeah,
do with
right,
subdivision regulations.
right,
And the term character comes up 2 other times in the document other than here. And they really are really broad terms, refer to either rural or community, so. I'm not exactly sure why these definitions are in this.
and what struck me is it's under definitions and it doesn't really actually define it in any
Okay.
way. So I would say they should be, taken out of the definitions.
It's okay with me, cause I had a couple of questions on it as far as the rural stuff goes, and then. Under F. That are compatible with the use for land and wildlife, natural communities, I'm not even sure you can do that. And then. E before that provides usual landscape that are traditionally found in natural areas and communities, I just replace that with. And maintains visual landscapes instead of provides.
A lot of this is from the zoning law and
Sure.
it has to deal with, commercial
That's where it belongs.
is where it is really what it's about. It's about that you don't end up building something that does not fit into the landscape.
Like a bizarre glass structure of light and weirdness.
Yes, or, or a flat roofed something. Thinking about having like pitched roofs
Okay,
rather than flat roof things.
so do you think we can delete it?
I think that could be a suggestion for sure. That is, again, is this needed for this law?
I guess this comes to my ignorance on how we as a review board take into consideration the zoning law. Because is there a separate process that will be going? Are we the only review of a subdivision that is supposed to accommodate the zoning law? Or is that something the code officer does or another? I know there's a zoning board of appeals, but who says, who is it? Are we the body that says this doesn't meet the zoning law? This is my ignorance speaking here.
Nope.
So. My understanding is that someone would need to apply for a subdivision. And this board would do the subdivision review. They can also apply for, to do a building or some kind of construction on a lot. Then they have to go through the zoning process, and we would do a zoning review as a site plan process. But there's 2 applications.
So I guess,
Well, I would say that there needs to be a staff person that
I couldn't agree more.
that looks at the subdivision first and
Right.
does the subdivision as it's being proposed meet zoning requirements? Minimum lot sizes or,
That would be the zoning officer.
yes,
Right.
And that is, yeah,
and so that needs to happen before it even comes to
That's
us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so is your question then, are we the ones that say whether or not this is rural character or not?
Basically, yes, if the zoning officer, because the zoning officer should be the one making that decision. And if that's the case, then everything that's supporting the zoning law is prior to what comes to the review board, and as Don had said, we're now conflating the zoning law into the review, subdivision review law. And what I'm hearing is we should be able to keep that as an independent process.
Right.
It would be good to keep them separated. At the same time, a lot of the same review materials and information is gonna be site plan review stuff. So if the project involves us needing to do site plan review, that is us. And technically that is under zoning. Although it's not like, it's not the use. The use is under zoning or setbacks or whatever, under zoning. It would be the site plan review part of it.
So there's,
Sense?
so I get all that, but there's two outcomes for this. One is a plat that is certified and sent to the county clerk. And that comes from the subdivision review. And then there are the authority to build a project, which comes under the site plan review and the zoning law. So that's provides someone the ability to build, get a building permit. So there's two different outcomes. So I think we have to have two different processes. We have to have two different sets of things we work through, as opposed to we kind of move back and forth between the two depending upon how we feel, because we have two different outcomes. We
Right.
have to be able to certify a plat. We have to be able to tell the building inspector that this project can go ahead and you can issue building permits.
Right. So say a project comes before us and it takes 4 meetings. There's gonna be a lot of overlap between site plan review and subdivision review. And after, well, first of all, we would make a seeker determination. That, okay, there's no environmental impacts. Then, because that's what has to happen before anything is approved, whether it's site plan review or subdivision review. And then I would say we would probably finish subdivision review in that we would approve a plat. And then finish any other review for site plan. For the building or the structure or whatever it is that they wanna put on the parcel that, no, we've approved to say, okay. Yes, these parcels look good, it is a subdivision. Now what you wanna put on it, or on 3 of them, or on 4 of them, or whatever it is. Then we finish that review and say, okay, yes, and then we approve that as well. So subdivision might be meeting 2 or 3, and then meeting 4 is we approve the site plan review. Not having gone through this, here, that's kind of how I envision it happening. Some of this is based on me having to do with projects in other municipalities.
Yeah, and then there's also a Board of Zoning Appeals, so if we
Yeah.
didn't approve something, we could go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Or I would say before we approve anything, if there is a zoning variance that's requested, that has to be approved first.
Yes, that's true.
And then it comes back to us. So we might have a meeting or two, and then they have to go to the Board of Zoning, BZA. And then if that's approved, their variance, whatever it is, then it would come back to us for final approvals.
I'm just thinking, there is the training on the 29th. These questions will be excellent to bring to that meeting. So,
So this gets back to, again, what verbiage we feel should be in the subdivision review law versus what should remain outside of it and in zoning. That you'll be bringing up a number of times, it sounds like, Don.
Yep, all right, so are we good to move on to other things in section 106, the definitions?
Mhm.
So Don, did you have, had you circled some definitions that,
Well, the other one besides this rural character is the occupation section P and Q. The only time the word occupation shows up in the whole document are in these definitions. And never discussed anywhere else in the document.
The occupation is the,
Yeah,
occupation.
item number P and item number Q.
Which are,
No, oh,
yeah, they're the home occupation major and home occupation minor.
oh,
That's from the, is that from the zoning?
It is from the
Yeah,
zoning
that's-
law. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just excited that I saw something and I was like, that's in the zoning law. I've read it.
So I was gonna suggest, I mean, if you have those redlined or flagged or whatever, then if you could just, you know, maybe submit those as.
Uh-huh. I'm putting them on my list.
okay.
Where were you?
It is mentioned in another definition of the residential purposes, but that's it. And including home occupation. But not in the rest of the law.
Okay, so we flagged those and we're moving on to other definitions.
Mhm.
We,
Sure.
the double letters, people on the double letters yet? Any-
Yep.
Any in there?
So I just had a question on number FF, which is private road. And it says designed, built and regulated by the town of Caroline road specifications.
That's not my FF.
No, mine is
That's
subdivider.
So
What's that?
Mine says subdivider under FF.
private road.
You're looking at F singular, I think.
It's just F.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Okay, well, I would have to say that it's, if you go down to road private, whatever number you have.
yeah.
Yeah,
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 it does look like a double F though. Isn't
It
it
does.
interesting?
yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh, the one above it is a double E. so
Yeah,
I just-
I think you're right.
I don't
There must be two double Fs.
But
Okay,
that's, we're not gonna talk
Yeah.
about that tonight.
great.
road, private.
But I don't know why the town would be regulating the road specs. I would hope that they don't want to,
That sort of popped
because I
my
mean, this
attention as
gets
well.
back to the point that Craig was making, where if you have a private road and has several houses on it, that there are requirements that the building inspector would want, and the fire companies would want to be able to get in, and have access to these, but they're not regulated by the town of Caroline.
But don't we have, I mean. Don't we have a law that specifies, you know, road construction for different types of roads, so.
But those are all public right of ways. That law,
But we could apply that to this, is what this is saying.
I don't know why we would want to.
Oh.
Once you take, once the town takes the authority of directing how the road gets built, then essentially the town is ready to take it on. As you had the road built the town specs.
Yeah, but I mean, couldn't that just be part of our subdivision process, of what we require for a developer? I mean, my question to Nan would be, is this
I think that's way overstepping.
within the normal process? I mean, I think the intent is that,
So typically a road is built to have certain number of axle weights that go down the road. But if you have a road that's for residential and just has a garbage truck going in once a week, and that's it. It doesn't have to have the same thickness of base and sub base and be built to the same crown and everything else and drainage that a town road would be built to.
It's
So
typical,
it would add to the developer's cost to build the town specifications.
it's typically, for building code, it's typically a weight bearing capacity. So it has to be able to take a fire truck of a certain weight, essentially, and be a certain width, because they have outriggers and whatever for aerial access.
so you're thinking maybe a more appropriate reference would be the building.
Building code,
Yeah.
since that would be required anyway.
So would you change it to built and regulated by the building code specifications instead of the town of Caroline specifications? Is that
Well, I
what?
would, I mean, if somebody else who wants to build on this, then they would have to comply with the building.
Okay, I see. So you're
It's
saying.
true,
So
that'd
we
be
would-
part of the permit process.
We
It wouldn't
wouldn't
necessarily-
regulate it. or be part of that process. We would
Right.
just make sure that the road provides access to these separate lots and so on. And that they have, that there's a permanent easement for those separate lots to use that private road. Those are the type of things we'd be concerned.
Yeah, being nice, we may suggest that they take a look at the building code, make sure that they are.
Up to
aligned with
it, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't wanna jump way ahead, but talking about this, if we went all the way ahead to 602. It's offers of dedication. It states in there that a finding by the town board that the proposed highways or facilities are eligible for acceptance. They shall not be obligated, it shall not obligate the town to accept such facilities
Yeah.
after they are constructed or formally offered to the town board. Which didn't make, I have there, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm not sure if that is okay or not okay. That would mean if we okay a road and the design. And they said, okay, and they wanted to come to the town and say, we built it to your specification. Town still says, we don't have to do that.
well, they don't have to take
That
it
makes
off.
sense to me, you're just saying that you don't.
Yeah, it's sort of like,
Require, right?
all the roads into the shops at Ithaca Mall, those have to be built to a specification, but they're still owned by the shops at Ithaca Mall, they're not owned by the town of Lansing. Or the village of Lansing,
But they still have rules,
they got a lot of rules.
right?
Mostly, I think about having potholes that could swallow your car.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it just leaves-
But it's more about maintenance.
Don saying,
So in the
No.
past, when the town has accepted a road, the road has been built to town specs and has been inspected by a third party to make sure that it has been, and then the town. And typically, this is an agreement that's set up ahead of time, the town is going to accept. They're gonna accept this road, and that's, so the town has made its characteristics and its specifications known. And then there's a third party that verifies that it's done, and then the town then takes over the road. And in doing that, the town is essentially letting the taxpayers know that they're not planning on putting any money into this road for a long time, because it's built to town specs.
I agree.
But if the road is a private road, it's not a town issue.
okay,
Any other parts in the definitions? Going once.
Yeah.
Going twice. All right, section 201. Classifications of subdivisions. My only thing was the lot line adjustments here required. For review, and we've already talked about that, so.
yeah, it's under subdivisions. I just wasn't sure. The last line.
So section 202.
I just had a general comment that I think for me as a review board member, even though it would be extra pages, I think that the minor subdivision process should be listed. And then the major subdivision process listed. The way it's written right now is they switch back and forth between the two. And I found it hard to
A little
follow.
confusing.
I agree with that. I had the same,
I mean, I think it's all in there, but you keep jumping back and forth and it's hard to keep track of
Right.
it. So that would be my recommendation.
And I was trying to look at it from a applicant's perspective, like, holy cow, yeah, it gets a little confusing.
So
So I
that-
totally agree.
That's where when you were talking about how there's a lot of stuff in zoning and there's some stuff that goes back and forth and you're saying that Nan did it on purpose, like to make it so that they didn't overlap. And I'm thinking about the way you described the zoning law in the meeting we had here like last month, where it's like a tool that you go and look at when you need something. And I find it not ideal that you have to have two tools to have to go, like if you're an applicant, like it's hard enough for me, to figure out what the heck's going on here. It would seem to me would be nicer to have it all sort of in one document.
Right, yeah.
If that's, I'm not suggesting that you guys go make a whole new document, but it is sort of tricky, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so the suggestion for section 202 is to divide those.
Yeah, to have one, say the minor subdivision process first, and then the major subdivision, not overlap them.
Yep.
So you're not, are you talking about sections 5 or article 5 and 7 or?
Well, I think we're talking right now about just section 202,
Yeah,
but probably there also.
So in the summary of the subdivision review plus process, split them out.
Yes,
And should minor versus major subdivisions be in the definitions, or is that better left to a separate section to define?
I think they are. Under subdivision, it's one of the last definitions, it says subdivision, and then there's major and minor.
Okay.
It's
And then lot.
it's another under FF.
Another FF.
No, not that. Yeah.
yeah, I kept thinking I was seeing like double pages of definitions, because I got very much from them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Double
Back to
vision.
Page 11, whoa.
203 seems fairly straightforward.
it
Mhm.
should be,
Got that going for us.
Yeah,
yeah, 204.
24 seems pretty good.
Five,
The 205, number 2 there, that's where we discussed that before.
That's a 6, I think.
that's 206.
Oh,
205 small.
okay.
Yeah, so 206 is the review of lot line adjustments. Does anybody have anything more they want to say about that? I mean, we feel like,
I think I certainly agree that it makes sense to have that be an administrative role.
Right.
And if the administrator has an issue with it,
I couldn't see it.
he or she could bring it to us.
right, so anything reviewed, I mean, in my experience with other municipalities, anything that is typically reviewed by staff. If there is a major concern or something like that, it can always be kicked to the board
Right,
for review, so. It could be, but ideally, simple lot line adjustments should be dealt with from staff, by staff.
so I'm gonna just ask this, I heard that we've lost a code officer, right? Or,
We have one now.
oh, we got one again,
Wait, Brian Butler, yeah,
okay, so is that code officer also gonna be the zoning?
yes,
Yeah, so, okay,
that's what we've
wanted,
asked,
right,
that's the job description,
Right.
yeah.
good, okay,
When you say handled by an administrator, do you mean doing what Don suggested, having it much quicker, not having it once a month? Lot line review?
Right,
Unless something weird
so staff would be able to deal with it as they come in.
As it comes in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and deal with it and send it back
And
out.
if it's a confusing one that they're not sure of, then they'll send it here for us to deal with.
Yeah, or if it involves other review process, like site plan or something.
and that staff person is also the person who's supposed to keep track of the plats and the giant map from hell. Right.
Right,
Yeah, so,
and make sure that they get documented with the county,
right,
stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
so that's the major suggestion, and then anywhere this appears and should be taken out or put back in. Yes, okay, good.
Did we go past 205? Are we there?
We
Yeah.
are at 205. Oh, 206. Did you have something for 205?
Yeah, they're just the last part that was struck from the wording. It says, this is review board use of legal counsel. And it says that regarding the matters of meeting process and interpretation of these regulations. So I'm curious why we would not, why the review board would not ask for legal counsel for that.
I took that to mean that it just wouldn't be charged to the applicant. If we're asking legal counsel about matters regarding the process an interpretation as opposed to their specific project or application, that those fees with the attorney wouldn't be charged to them, the applicant, at that point.
It's our problem to figure out.
It would be for us, yeah, it would be charged to the town or whatever.
So is a
Makes sense.
review board use of legal counsel not included in review fee?
Right,
But then.
So this would be exactly what would not be included in the review fee. Matters of meeting process, interpretation of these
Right.
regulations.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
either the title's wrong or this,
yeah,
Right, gotcha.
I would say the title's wrong.
So are you, it's 205?
205.
I don't have that.
Yeah,
I don't have that.
anything struck.
Regarding
I do.
matters,
Oh.
mine's missing, like mine's.
Yeah, I don't
On my
have the same,
Okay.
this is interesting.
Yeah.
I have a red line
Well,
version.
so like here.
yes,
and I have a red line version
See
too.
here.
What's your-
mine-
Yours
mine
is
doesn't-
415 as well.
Yeah, that's.
Mine doesn't even have it. Yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong version.
That bottom part's red line.
well,
Okay.
So
or
that
certain
should
things
be
got
there.
accepted.
Change the title.
The, like, these are, like, the red line is the suggested revision, and maybe it got somehow it got accepted in.
So does it
Revised.
start off
Yeah,
with
and,
The review board may
May?
seek legal counsel. And it ends with, and at the meetings and their counsel.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I don't have
Yeah.
the, I don't have the deleted.
oh, yeah,
regarding matters of meeting
Very
process.
So I just don't see
Right.
that.
Okay, so what I'm writing down is that we think that either the title is wrong here,
yes,
or we should include that from regarding matters on.
Right.
Okay,
yep.
I'll trust your notes.
sometimes
Yeah.
it just.
Uh,
Be in there.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
so we kind of went over section 206.
Yep.
So we're ready for 301.
Look at this, we're just whizzing along. That was a lie.
I miss good old moratorium days.
Yeah.
301, 302,
one second.
302.
okay,
302, the first part, first paragraph. The first underlying part where it says all requirements related to water quality and the stream corridor overlay pursuant to the town of Caroline zoning law shall also be met where applicable. I'm just wondering why where applicable, or shouldn't it just be
Should be met.
also be met? Cause I didn't go back.
Where is
to
it
the-
not applicable?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep. I didn't go back to the.
We're always gonna have water quality. Be a thing.
I'm fine with that. We did it.
sure. Anything else for 302?
Same thing, underwater supply.
I mean, this is the only place where, like, if you're simply dividing land into parcels and you're selling them, you don't necessarily, you don't have to show, you're not gonna drill a well on each parcel and show that there's adequate water before you sell them, like,
right.
it's just one place that I'm like,
Right.
but maybe that is why it makes sense to keep the last line of where applicable
Right.
in that. You know,
Oh, I
sometimes it's not applicable
Yeah.
because we're not gonna require them to prove that they have enough water there.
Okay,
Maybe, what if we use two different words? What if we use subdivision for dividing land into pieces? And we used housing subdivision when we were talking about a housing subdivision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would help. I think if that's a general change for the document, that would maybe help.
Mark looks unsure.
Yeah, yeah. So,
We're suggesting,
All we can do is suggest, all we can do is suggest it, and then you guys do what you want.
Yeah.
Just remember, we're the ones enforcing.
well, also the public reads it, it's not, you'd understand.
I don't know, it just, it occurred to me, like, when I hear, I'm from Florida, so when I hear subdivision, I think Circleville, like, I think houses in a row that all look the same, like I grew up in, like the death of culture.
Even though that's the.
But like subdividing like this table into 4 chunks is a totally different concept, you know,
Yeah.
so like that is confusing to me. I mean, it's not anymore, but I see how that could be a problem.
Yeah, I think for the average person such as myself, reading this would make it much easier.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could suggest it and we'll see what happens.
Right,
There you go.
And, you know, because of find all, you know, search and find,
yeah,
relatively easy.
so we're leaving where applicable and certain.
So we're still on number B, water supply.
Yeah,
That's A for me, is it?
Oh, you're an A.
If water supply is A for us.
Yeah.
Water
think it's like-
quality is
I
A.
think it's that question about
It's
where
the red line.
applicable.
Water supply is B for me,
I think it's that question about where applicable again,
yeah,
which has to do with subdivision and housing subdivision
Yeah.
again.
Right,
I'm gonna try to write that as explanation.
Do you have
yeah,
water
I
quality?
think that's great. It's water quality and then water supply is after it, in
Yeah,
Yeah,
the red
water-
line version.
Water quality is the
so
first.
unfortunately, the version that I have, which I don't know how, because I'm pretty sure I downloaded it from the attachment that
Yeah,
you gave me.
Uh,
But it has a lot of wording in there that was struck out, which
Yeah.
talks about groundwater is the principal source of drinking water. Following standards are intended to
Yeah,
ensure. the
that's-
I
supply.
have that too, all
Yep.
struck out.
Yeah, I'll check out.
Okay,
So why is that struck out?
it was, struck out from the previous subdivision law.
It was.
That's, I think that's what the strikeouts are, yeah. So,
You mean it wasn't in the previous subdivision law or,
it was,
and
and then it was taken out?
Yeah.
and this is Nan or somebody else
Yeah.
striking it from
Yeah.
Because
the,
it's in the zoning law. Or,
No, the subdivision law has been revised at least once, if not twice, since it was originally adopted.
okay,
So, well, I think what Mark's saying is this was taken out on one of those amendments.
well, I
Yeah.
think, I mean,
no,
So here's everything that you've got that's.
It's all
your
red line by
line is over
Dan.
here on the
By Dan,
side,
right.
that's why, okay.
so
it's
it's
just
red,
taken out.
it's red line from the 2018 version of the subdivision law.
yeah, like actually it was 7:32 AM on March 26th. Yeah, I've got notes on all of it saying that where she's redlined it.
Okay,
So you're wondering why it's redlined?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it says when the proposed source of water for a subdivision is groundwater, the review board may require the subdivider to undertake studies, including hydrogeological study to determine the impact of the proposed withdrawal of groundwater on surface water flows and existing users of the same supply of water. And I would just remind the board that we actually had a situation like that near the Brooklands Market, where someone was trying to do some work on a parcel and they didn't have water on that parcel at all. And they had to take it from somebody else who would not give them the
Right.
water.
Right,
So then they end up. And the whole project, we didn't continue the review because they pulled the project because they didn't have water, but the only time it came up was because of our request for that information.
that was written into the law.
okay.
So I don't,
Saying-
so I would just say that we should be really clear about what's in the water supply, because that is, we don't have public water here. That's the most critical thing.
But
we
so-
should Leave it.
But under,
So this says we can actually make them show us.
So that's doesn't the first sentence say that? The proposed subdivision shall have a supply of water adequate for the proposed uses. So I think.
As opposed to on that they have to undertake studies to determine the impact. I mean, even though it's a different subdivision, but whenever Bruno Schickmo put his second subdivision in, he put a well. His well he drilled, he had to monitor all the other wells around him, and there've been several other times that's happened where when somebody puts a well in and they're gonna draw a lot of water out of it, they have to check the neighboring wells to make sure it doesn't
Right.
impact them.
right, I guess I would say, I mean, under the water supply, the first two sentences sort of cover that. I mean, proposed subdivision shall have supply of water adequate for the proposed uses without unreasonably adversely affecting the availability of groundwater for other properties. So, seems like a broad enough
That is.
statement here
It gives the review.
where it
board-
gives us a lot of latitude to be
Yeah.
able to say, well,
It's almost
show
not
us,
effective.
prove us, you know, how, you know, you do this study or do that study.
Right.
It was one of the few instances where I was glad to see. Okay, let's strike out a bunch of this wordage and just leave it as a simple statement that gives us a lot of latitude. Are you feeling okay about that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, other sections under that, other letter sections, erosion, sediment control, water, stormwater runoff, blah, blah, blah.
Good.
Oh, ways,
Yep,
Yeah. this
Getting
is
to the
where-
driveway question.
here we go.
which is the one place that I saw that they actually refer to the New York State Code. And they quote it wrong. It's not, the pull off under driveways, the pull off of 15 feet by 50 feet is not actually correct. It's 20 feet by 50 feet
Okay,
is what's under New York State Code.
What is it?
Every, it's so that two fire trucks can pass each other.
Oh, okay.
So every-
Like a lump of on the side.
Yeah, so a typical driveway has to be by code 12 feet wide.
Mhm.
And this just says you have to add 8 more feet for 50 feet worth
Got
at
it.
some point, so that two fire trucks can pass each other. As one's going in with water and the other one's going out empty.
That's a regulation written in blood, I would assume.
That, well, it's on the
My
fire code. yeah.
driveway is not up to code.
Oh,
Just
so
wanted to
many
get that.
driveways are not up to code.
As one who has had a fire and had multiple fire trucks come through, it can be very important. I would make sure that.
Right now.
I have backed up frequently in the wintertime,
Mm,
yes, which is not very much fun.
yeah,
Second
Okay.
bullet point under that. Where it says driveway shall be sloped away from the public road to which it connects. At a slope of 1% for the first 20 feet of the driveway, and beyond that, the driveway shall have a slope no greater than 10%. I'm just wondering
As long
about
as
that
switchback.
around here because
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like a wheelchair ramp.
Well, I understand the point of the 1% away from the
no, I
road,
understand that,
but
the 10% is.
technically, my driveway doesn't meet that, and there's a lot of driveways that.
Well, that's what I'm
can't
saying, where we
meet
live, 10% is like, and a lot of the driveways, it's not a straight run.
Right,
They're specifically because of the slope, do this,
right,
Right,
so,
to get a milder. slope.
yeah.
Yeah.
But 10% slope is pretty
Restrictive.
restrictive, yeah. So I'm just kind of wondering, I wasn't sure of 10%, so.
okay, I'm
That's
writing
my
it down, questioning the 10% slope.
Well, yeah, that's fine, I wouldn't. You know what, 10%?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's 10 feet and 100 feet. That's pretty steep. But, yes,
Around
I get
here,
it.
it's,
pretty common.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Well, actually, and New York State Code is for fire truck access, it's 15%, so
That's the limit.
that's the limit is 15% slope. For fire truck access. So, but so you could just use that. They, I think some of them do.
some of them do, some
Some
of
of
them,
them,
most of your big trucks don't.
and no more than 4 lots may be served by a common driveway.
So,
Right,
so I have a question on that. So where the driveway is different than a private road?
So does that mean that if you have 5 lots, it's not being served by a common driveway, it's being served by a private road?
well, again, going back to building code, a driveway, an access driveway is a 12-foot wide driveway that has certain weight requirements. Once you get, but again, in the building code, it says you can only serve 5 houses or 4 houses.
Right.
More than 4 houses, then it has to be an access road. And an access road has completely different requirements. I believe it has to be 20 feet wide and higher weight
So
capacity.
this is just following what it's gonna have to be anyway. It's 4 lots.
it is, without referring specifically to the building code, it does a lot, seem to align with it, except for the grade.
Again, I wonder if this it would be helpful to have driveway defined, for, in the
Yeah.
definition.
And I mean, it could be simply said, you know, the driveway has to meet the standards of building code and fire code access. And that would take care of a lot of this.
Yeah.
And not
Divided in law.
without accidentally defining it differently than what other codes may say.
I'm gonna
Along
put
those
that
lines.
down.
Yeah,
Public utilities.
alright. Yeah, not much is.
I'm very glad we have public transportation in there they should be reviewed by, because that doesn't often happen. And TCAT then ends up getting like, oh, we just built 700 apartments.
Surprise.
Yeah. It's great, yeah.
Yeah,
It's great when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the couple times that we've had people go to the school district, they've been a little bit like, huh? But otherwise,
From this.
yeah, they kind of, they're like, sure, yeah, you can build. Alright, anyway,
So in the version I have struck out the utility services, electric, gas, phone and broadband.
Yes, it's all struck out here too.
mhm.
So why wouldn't we want to have the public utility providers included in the review process?
Electric, NICEAG doesn't do it anymore.
Oh,
Is it because of the
They-
first sentence that
It's
says,
because they're owned by an out-of-country owner who doesn't care. They used to have people who did that, but they don't have anybody anymore.
so that is redundant with the first sentence under E, public utility. It says all appropriate public service and utility service providers shall have an opportunity to review
No,
the
maybe that's it.
proposed subdivision. So,
But they really don't do it anymore. They're like, we don't care. And you're gonna own the broadband, right? The broadband, yeah.
we damn sure are.
flood hazard prevention. Oh, yeah,
I think that's fine.
oh, no, I was- jump to agriculture.
Mhm.
why don't we have the ag data statement included in this language?
Oh, the struck out part? Okay. I thought there was somewhere else that requires the ag data statement, anyway. Just.
Yes. I saw
But
that.
if it's one of our
I think
review
there's,
criteria, you would think it'd be in here.
yeah, I think it is, I think it's just in a
In
different
section
place.
504. The review board shall cause written notice. What is section 504? Agriculture. Section.
And the next
Refer
paragraph
to other
down,
agencies in the town board. In
Right.
section 504.
and I think the next paragraph down that's labeled 1. The subdivider shall address its impact on agriculture, but that's not exactly the same thing, is it?
Well, it could just, I mean, at the end of that, we could just add. You know, and supply the ag data statement. We want it in this section, I think it is somewhere else, I don't remember where.
Yeah, but we counted them.
But it wouldn't hurt to have it in this section as well.
It's not in the review criteria, but it is, shows up here.
The referral.
Okay,
It's always been on the list of. my working list of documents to submit for a review. But yeah, good. Anything on energy use? Greenhouse gas.
Just why it's in here. What that has to do with a parcel subdivision.
Right, a housing subdivision, it makes sense. It makes sense from us, I guess, if we are reviewing that kind of subdivision for a seeker review.
A housing
I think,
subdivision.
yeah,
Well, wouldn't this be under the
be on a
Site-
site plan
site plan
review.
review process?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things in here that would be under site plan
My
review though
point, but
too.
this is one of them.
Yeah. So,
I guess my question is, what does it hurt having it in two places? Why is that such a bad thing?
So if somebody's coming to take the case that we mentioned earlier, where someone has this 25 acres and they want to divide it up into 8 lots,
Mhm.
and they don't have a particular plan, they just want to sell off the land and they're
Go
going to
ahead.
divide it into 8 lots. So what are they going to tell us about the greenhouse gas? What are they going to tell us about driveways?
right,
Nothing.
not,
Is this here making them do that? Like requiring them to do?
So we as a review board, this is a review criteria, we have to ask them.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's
y-
fine.
yeah, I mean, it goes back to if it is a housing subdivision, I can see how it is part of seeker if they're proposing houses. I agree with your point, they should be under site plan review and. there's a number of
But it is
things that
there.
just are under site plan review and don't need to be duplicated here. And I guess the other argument would be. We all seem to be on the same page about it, but. Using this document for somebody 50 years from now, they could say, yeah, you're dividing off that 3 acres. You know, tell us about your greenhouse
Right.
emissions, and they'll be like.
What the hell are you
"Talking about-
talking
Yeah,
about?"
why is this even on here?
Right,
And I would agree, why isn't it?
so can we suggest to remove?
Mhm.
So we could probably remember.
So if we did the division, the split, would you keep this in housing subdivisions? Yes.
Maybe,
So
but maybe not because it's under site plan review.
I will mention something, so in grappling with how to, which is some of the question that's come up here about. You know, how to create a hierarchy or something, could we create a hierarchy for, you know, macro subdivisions versus. Middle level versus minor, whatever, so. And, you know, when I put that to Guy, like, could we like get rid of the public hearing or something like that? His recommendation was that. You know, the review board has discretion for each application. To tailor, you know, their review, so I think his recommendation was to let the review board. Use their judgment, for each project, so. So like, for somebody dividing a lot into and building a house here and there, then, you know, like. Okay, we're not gonna get overly concerned about greenhouse gas emissions and stuff like that, so.
Does that mean we're not gonna look at it at all? Like, if you're. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I mean, I get, I mean, I get your point, I just don't think it's a good argument for throwing in everything under the sun.
You don't think what?
I don't think it's a good argument to just throw in everything under the sun and then say, well, use your discretion as far as what you want to use.
Well, but I mean, for instance, I would definitely wanna have this under consideration for. You know, a major subdivision, where it's gonna have. Big impact.
So are you saying that we can say as a review board, we got this 25-acre fictional parcel? You're saying that we can look at that and go, don't worry about energy use?
Well, I mean, what,
Pretty much.
so.
You can, if you want.
It says, the proposed subdivision shall comply with the secret process, including a discussion of energy use and greenhouse gas emissions.
So that discussion can be, that's not a big deal.
That's very, it's not saying there's a threshold that you have to meet or anything like that. So, this is, again, I mean, I think this would be good fodder for the conversation on the 29th. But.
I mean, the kind of project that you're talking about is also going under a major site plan review.
Exactly.
And this is all under that site plan review law already. And I guess that's our point is like. Why be redundant and have it here when half the time or more, it's not even being used?
Because
I don't know, there's,
the outcome from the review, subdivision review process is a plat.
Right,
Right,
so that's a good point. We could-
yeah,
Yeah.
right,
right.
where on a, on a plat would it have
I
anything? to
mean,
do
this
with
isn't germane to that decision.
Yeah. True, whereas a driveway is
Yes.
on the plat, if it includes a driveway,
Well, if you're having 2 or 3 houses on the same driveway, it's definitely on the plat.
yeah, right. Yeah, I think that's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah,
So what is missing in review criteria, that I mentioned earlier, is we should have the lot sizes depending upon the hamlets and what zone things are in. Even though that's a zoning issue, we're supposed to be reviewing on a plat, so that needs to be in this law, as well as the conservation design that's currently in the zoning law.
right,
Cause that is subdivision plat related. So they should be included in here.
That was brought up before. So-
right, if nothing else, showing us that they comply. That it complies with,
Sure.
yeah, what it is. Yeah.
So in 2008, you might remember, we revised both the subdivision law and the site plan law. And the thing that we bore down on was the county's recommendations for greenhouse gas reduction. So that language, and you'll see, is not new in there. It's from the 2008, so.
And I remember the reason why it was in there, because we didn't have zoning and have every parcel under the microscope. So that's why it was included in there. The site plan review specified which projects could be reviewed. Every project, if it didn't fit the definition of what was reviewed, we didn't see it in
Right,
site plan review.
right.
Subdivision saw every project except for the ones that were exempt. So that's why it showed up in the subdivision law. But in the current hierarchy we have, it doesn't have a role any longer in this law.
I don't know.
Because it
Well,
all, because it all has to go through.
Before, there were
Right.
projects
Uh,
that would miss site plan review,
Of course, yeah,
but they would all have to, a major project, any project that would miss site plan review it would have to involve the subdivision, would have to go through the subdivision process, and that's why we would ask this question, because that was the only time you could ask it.
okay.
So that's why it was in before, and why it doesn't belong in there now.
Cause you're saying now it's included in the zoning,
Every project.
so
is
then
included.
every project is, yeah.
Well, I mean, any project that is specified in the use table for site plan review is trigger site plan review. So it's
If it's not in there, you can't do it.
it's not in there, you can't do it, right?
So everything's defined.
Yeah.
Either it's defined or you can't do it. So everything's defined.
Right.
There's no gray zone.
Should we move on to section 4? Sketch plan review. 401, 402, 403. 404, anybody have any? What comments? 406, seeker classification. 407,
So
studies.
before you go off.
Yeah.
306, I just want to, not that I have a suggestion here, but whenever there's a decision made about lot line adjustments, that requires a seeker. It to be a seeker, unlisted action. which requires the review board to do something, right?
Right,
Which means that lot line adjustments would be then have to come before the review board.
if well, if lot line adjustments are considered type 2 action under seeker, then they
Yep.
don't, then they don't.
They don't have to come before this board
I,
to determine if
believe
they're
not.
type two.
right. I
If that
think
can be
staff,
done, if that can be done by staff, then
I think staff can determine it as a type 2, in which case it's not,
Okay, that's not my understanding.
that's not
No.
my understanding either, but it could be wrong.
huh, interesting.
It's,
Because
it's a board, it's a board action administering seeker, so.
Okay, so would it be acceptable to do something like someone bring us in a list of lot line adjustments?
To do what?
For the staff person to walk in and say to us, here's the list of lot line adjustments that I've made. And we go, yes. It's like a consent agenda thing.
But then what are we achieving? Right?
Well, right, but, you know, we have already had this discussion that it just seems insane to have
Once a month.
something pretty simple as a lot line adjustment. So I guess I should ask the question about type two.
I think we should ask the question about why lot line adjustments are included under seeker action.
Right, because in other municipalities, either they're not included under seeker, or I've had plenty where staff has declared them type 2 and they have not gone to the board.
Okay,
I think that was, well, we'll find out.
That was defined.
I don't think they have to be. I don't think they have to be, undergo seeker.
Undergo seeker,
I
okay,
think,
that would make sense.
so I'm pretty sure, but we'll
Okay.
find out.
okay, so I will put that in my list.
Study of sketch plan.
And the thing that reinforces that is the link to the Department of State document that I shared with you guys, that lot line adjustments are the one thing that are discretionary
Right,
for a town.
Mhm.
So if they require a seeker review, it wouldn't be discretionary, so.
okay.
That was a scary document to open.
Under,
Yeah, right. Just gonna watch baseball.
under that study of the sketch plan.
Yeah.
Under A, it says, and the location is struck on mine.
Yeah, me too. I don't know why.
Yeah,
That
it
makes no
doesn't
sense.
make sense with that struck, does it?
No.
Okay.
Alright, and 408, anything, the decisions?
Yeah, I just needed maybe somebody to explain. Section of that, and I said something about C section 502, and I need to go back and look at it and see what.
Liners, division plat.
Yeah, which was-
Give me the next page.
Yeah, should be just that.
Okay, I'm going back around for it. Yeah. Says, yeah, in the last paragraph on 502, on that first paragraph, it says the plat shall conform to the layout shown in the sketch plan and also incorporate any recommendations made by the review board during the sketch plan review process. Under the sketch plan decisions up here, it says the review board shall advise the subdivider of any energy or of any general recommendations on layout, appropriations, and placement of buildings. It also states something about where is it, and improvements, and it talks about recommendations that we give them
Mhm.
that they should take into review. The board shall at that time, in the last paragraph of the sketch plan, determine if the application is a minor or major, and if it shall make notation in its minutes and upon the sketch plan map submitted to the board, the subdivisor may proceed with the appropriate procedures. But it says, we make recommendations, I scribbled it out here, proposed subdivision continues. Do we make recommendations to them, and however, they don't have to follow them, but then it says on 502 that we have to incorporate any recommendations made by the review board?
Well, I mean, if they choose to, or their recommendations, they're not questions.
Okay,
It's, I mean, I kind of feel like subdivision is often similar to site plan in that it's a conversation. And it's a lot of back and forth and ends up being often the compromise of. Okay, this sounds and looks good to both parties.
So my understanding is that we have review criteria, and we've talked about
Yeah.
those. And that is what we can compare the proposal against. There are guidelines in the back of this document that are discussion points, but there's nothing to compare. So if we ask them a question about greenhouse gas or whatever they're doing, and they say they don't wanna talk about it, then there's nothing we can do about it, because that's not part of our review criteria. It's just something that we make them aware of. Under site plan review, it's a completely different story, because there are metrics that they have to meet. So I think that's what's important about this law, is that it be written in a way that the review board and the applicant know where the points are where we have to meet.
cause it's a
I
lot.
think that would be good to follow up with Nan about the function of the design guidelines, and my understanding is the review board has a lot of authority, and I just don't know where the,
Yeah, well, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean,
I mean, I'm asking the question, I don't know.
yeah, it's. Even on a site plan review, I don't feel like we have, there's very few of the guidelines or criteria that are quantitative,
Right.
you know, they're qualitative. Inherently making them subjective, you know, to our point of view, and so often it's our point of view to their point of view. And ends up being a conversation. So, I don't know.
I still think it's worth a question to clarify it with the planner, how that works, because I've always wondered about that. Like, you know, is it just like, okay, we're gonna talk about it, and you can thumb your nose at us or whatever, I mean,
Right.
it seems pointless almost.
It's fairly easy if it's a law, though, and it's a law, and this is what it's supposed to be
Yeah, but
versus us. Maybe not,
there's no definitive,
right,
for most things, there's no
Yeah.
definitive
It's
Yeah.
very,
quantitative
Gotcha.
things.
Yep.
And I mean, to be honest, in most cases, it ends up being that the board can be such a pain in the butt that the developer, whoever, is willing to concede certain things and compromise just to be able to get their project through, or they say, forget it, and
mhm.
they pull the project and it's done.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So who's gonna be the really rotten one?
We take turns.
Yeah, it's all words. We rock, paper, scissors.
Oh,
for
okay.
it.
The chair,
Throwing you.
the chair can say.
Yeah,
Jesus, that's,
I don't know, I feel like I'm usually the softie, if anything, but.
I'm just warning you, when I play rock, paper, scissors, I have atomic spider,
Atomic
which
spider.
wins everything.
Oh, wow.
That I wanna see.
Yeah. Do you only get to use it like once a month or something though?
I use it for good.
Oh,
Now I'm looking forward to a review.
maybe it should be like a.
That's an American
spider.
thing. I only use atomic weapons for days.
That is our standard.
You can't have it.
slap you with a dilly pip.
Okay,
Oh, right, where are we?
about halfway
I
through.
think we're on 904.
Not quite.
I jumped ahead.
Yeah, were we okay with, was it 503 as design criteria and guidelines?
Yeah, I
So we're
wrote
down
this
to
thing about
503.
questions.
All right, try to catch up here.
Oh, there's a place where building envelope is. Building envelope shall be cited to minimize impacts to water resources.
So that's why maybe that's why the building envelope includes the driveway?
Yeah, I mean, that in that instance, that makes sense to me.
If the driveway goes across the creek,
Right.
that's a problem.
Otherwise, yeah.
Which one are you on now?
503.
Three.
503.
Design guidelines.
Yep.
So. This is another place where it refers back to the design guidelines of the zoning, which are often aesthetic guidelines for commercial buildings. I don't remember that specific section. But why would that be important in a subdivision?
The development guidelines of zoning section 5(2)(b) and D are encouraged to be met. I don't remember what they are,
Yeah, all right, maybe I do.
but I will make a note to look.
Yeah. And zoning section 5.3 C through G. That's a stream.
And that's a shall, which is interesting. Because the other ones are saying encouraged and C through G is a shall.
Well, I think because that's within this, well, it's within the stream corridor overlay district,
Has to be.
so that's why.
Okay. Okay. So we're happy with that then?
I think so.
I'm crossing that out.
504,
That seemed fine.
preliminary review. Referrals.
So does the planning department like ever say stuff?
Planning
The
department.
county planning department, they ever?
Oh, the
When you-
county planning department.
Oh.
Very rarely.
Okay.
Sometimes we ask them about specific things, but otherwise, if we just send it to them for the, whatever review, 1099 review, no, so it is.
239?
239.
239 review.
LMNN. Okay,
In my tax
L-
code, and stuff with my billing.
okay. that's
They
kind of what-
they rarely say anything. Respond.
Okay.
They do usually send a letter. I mean, they respond, they send a letter, but it's usually formal, it's like, yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay,
So we're still in 504.
yeah, and then moving to 505, right? Yep,
So now we're on B, required referrals.
yeah,
And it says, what was struck was that the review board shall refer the matter to the town board in the event that permanent infrastructure is proposed to be dedicated to the town. So I don't know why that was struck, and that is critical. That it be part of the process. Case in point,
Yeah,
the infrastructure that was put in for the subdivision behind the Dandy Mart inquired stormwater runoff. The town board had to accept that. The stormwater runoff. And they also had to accept part of the road that was put there.
Hmm.
And so the subdivision could not be approved until that town
Right.
board had signed off on that, so. And whenever, trying to think of Bruno Schickel dedicated something to the town. but he might not have. But I know that it's possible for a developer to want to offload the road or something.
Well, it's in their best interest, because if the town's not gonna accept it, say in the case of a road, the developer is gonna wanna know that before.
We want to know before we give the
Right.
approval.
Right,
So that, I'm sure that's an editorial change. I'm trying to figure out what it was, because section 6 is about the town board.
But
Accepting.
this is required referral, so if I were an applicant, I want to know what the required referrals were. I wouldn't want to go to another section about the town board's responsibilities to find out what the required referrals are.
yep. All right. Sounds good, section 505. Their process. And section 506.
So who else would be the lead
That's
agency?
my question too.
It depends on where they are. Sometimes you have to actually reach out to, like, State Parks Association, or I forget what it's called. Or yes, it's Parks and History, or Historic Landmarks.
Historic
whatever.
preservation, yeah.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or the county might want to take it on if it has something to, if it's going across town lines.
Or like
Do with
it could go over a county line, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or DOT. If it's on a state
Yeah.
road,
It was
Okay.
really important.
or the county, if it's on a county road.
Yeah, but usually they don't. I mean, just if it's
Exactly.
going in and out, they'll have
Right.
comments
So
and
we need
and
to-
tell you, but
we need
you
to
gotta
tell
send it
them.
to them.
And
Yeah,
then they say, you be the lead agency, we don't.
yeah, you always have to give them the authors or the opportunity to
okay.
say yes or no. Usually nobody says, yeah, I want to take it on. 507, board action.
So that would have to change if it's about, oh, this is a minor subdivision, never mind.
Yeah. Under 507. I was just
Yes.
wondering under disapproval, in the event of disapproval, I just was wondering, is there no time frame for disapproval? Or is it in further?
Well, it's gotta be within
90 days,
180 days, right?
180 days.
okay.
Thanks, all right, can we move on to 601?
Mhm.
So this gets back to the town board's approval of a road or infrastructure. And it says, on this language, which I think is incorrect and needs to be changed, that the town board has no obligation whatsoever to accept such offers. They are the discretion of the town board. The town board shall have no obligation whatsoever to accept such offers. The approval by the review board of subdivision plan shall not be deemed to constitute or imply acceptance of the town of any roads, public areas, easements, parks shown on the plan. And I would have to say that that part should be struck from this language. Because if the town board is not going to accept it, why, the applicant has just been running around the big merry-go-round.
It's just saying that the review board approval is not a tacit approval by the town board.
Well, I
right?
couldn't agree that that's the case, but why would the review board should never, ever approve anything if the town board hasn't given its approval?
So,
So the review board approval is contingent on the town board approval. And then this becomes a mute statement.
Well, so
this is about acceptance, right?
This is about if somebody comes through with a subdivision plan, and in that plan, they're gonna have some part of it, whether it's roads, public areas, or something that are given to the
Right.
town, the town has to say that they're gonna accept that before the plat can be approved.
Couldn't there be a scenario where the town says, for whatever reason, I don't know what it would be, but. No, we don't wanna accept that.
And
But
then,
we'll-
and then
We'll approve it.
that is the case, and then the review board should, in good conscience, say, we will not accept your plat, because what you're putting on the plan cannot happen,
The town board said no.
because the town board said no.
We can't just override that. Is that your point? We can't say.
So that's what this says, you can't override it.
Right.
So in other words, right, we would not accept a plat that includes a dedication of whatever to the town if the town hasn't already approved it,
Exactly.
right?
But we could accept a plat,
I would tell you that,
that would
that I would never vote for that,
include.
and I would hope that none of the other people sitting around this table would ever vote.
Well, I'm just asking about process, Don. I'm just trying to understand the process.
Well, the process is, if you go up to the earlier one where
Right.
it's required documents, then the required document is approval by the town. That is a required document,
Okay,
and then the review board can accept the plat. The way it's written now, the review board can accept the plat, that's a fiction, it can't exist.
Well, yeah, I think you're agreeing with the intention of this paragraph. But the wording is not meeting your needs.
Does not mean the applicants, does not mean the review board needs.
Yeah, I think, so the way I read it was. Even if the review board were to accept the plat, it is not saying that the town will accept. The responsibility of accepting your donation of the whatever.
And I'm saying that the review board should make it a requirement that the town has already accepted it before it approves that plat.
Right.
And that's how I've written it.
Yep, sounds good.
602.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's what it says, approved by the town
Yep.
board.
It's,
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I had under that offers of dedication. Last paragraph, a finding by the town board that the proposed highways or other facilities are eligible for acceptance shall not obligate the town to accept such facilities after they are constructed and formally offered to the town board. I said I wasn't sure that was okay, just because, like Don's saying, he's making somebody go through everything that you have to go through, when we should know whether the town board was gonna accept it before we go through all that. Or make somebody go through everything. If it's
So
not gonna be
it's
accepted,
definitely fine to go through the process, but it's an expectation, just like you want
right,
approval from the health department for
Right.
septic systems and
Right.
whatever else. That's a requirement that
right,
that they have approval from the town to accept this infrastructure.
Gotcha.
And it sounds like it was pretty well laid out and deleted in the original
Exactly.
law, so. If that section was not deleted, it would serve both purposes.
Would.
I'm gonna write that down. Why not go back to what was deleted?
all right, we jumped to 7:01.
Mhm.
Yeah, how, do a time check, it's almost 9.
How about we go to 9 and then I'll collapse.
Okay.
That sounds like a brilliant.
Like 9 PM or section 9.
Well, detail.
Like the way you think.
Infinity and beyond.
For a second.
How about we try and cruise through 7:01, 7:02? Oh, All right, sorry, I'm gonna bring up a big issue that I have, is the why, I thought we were getting over this
The hard copies?
preliminary, no,
Oh.
although that is another good point.
Yeah, the same.
Preliminary plat and final plat, like, why are we literally accepting? If I'm reading this correctly, we're approving a preliminary plat and then approving a final plat. It doesn't make any sense to me. We wait to approve it until it's done and it's right, period. I think that the preliminary plat, there could be a preliminary plat submitted, but there should be no decision and approval until it's done, which would be the final plat. And there's gonna probably be 2 or 3 or 100 revisions in between.
Right.
I second that motion.
And I thought we had talked about this, maybe I'm remembering some other
No,
decision
we
making.
did, but I'm not sure it was part of the conversation about this law, but whenever we have the meeting with Nan, we should talk about
Right.
how we can adjust this law so we can remove the preliminary plat approval.
Right,
It should
right,
be a preliminary plat, but,
yes,
but,
completely.
Approval.
Right.
okay,
All right, that was my biggest comment on this whole section.
okay. Then I was like, why do we have to have people make 5 copies of things? Why can't we just all get it by
Your email.
email?
Look.
Because some
Two of us
people-
like hard copies.
Yes, some people like hard
I
copies.
love a hard copy, I just don't like printing.
Exactly, so.
Right.
It's made, yeah.
So we make them print that.
Well, and then the other thing was they make 5 copies and we have. you.
What
So
about
like you
me?
don't get a copy. So it should.
Well, we can, yes,
Yeah.
we can change that to 6 or 7 or however maybe.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just freaking more paper.
Yeah.
No, but if we're gonna be sitting here reviewing it and we can make them do it, I'm happy to, I'd love to having a hard copy to look at, especially like a plat or like all this.
Yeah, that's true.
I would say we at least need a couple hard copies because it is good if we're all here to actually,
Right,
you know,
Yeah,
lay
we
it
can-
out,
we can
point to
develop
it.
it.
Yeah, we've totally had to
Yeah.
do that before. And then there also needs to be a clean copy that's
right.
kept somewhere filed, whatever,
Okay,
and whatnot.
I,
So
I wanna let y'all know I learned what a plat was 3 days ago, so this is quite a. I was like, boy, they keep misspelling plot.
I remember thinking the same thing for a long time.
Right, yeah.
How funny.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Me too.
So let's just make it 6 then.
yeah,
Copies.
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I like how you came into this hoping to get rid of them. And
I
you're
know,
in
now
fact
I'm-
adding.
6 copies and 1 for everyone.
Yeah. I'm a person.
Don't cite it, okay?
Totally the
Can we jump to 703 or do other people have things to say about 702?
I don't. Well, we have to get decision on the preliminary plat. In 5 there. Do we, because it says when approving a preliminary plat, so I'll just say that this affects section 5 as well.
Sure.
Okay. Because we don't want to approve that.
Yeah. So 704, 705. Decision, blah, blah. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
And section 704, I mean, starts with when the final plat application is submitted, which the board deems not to be in a substantial agreement with the preliminary plat approved. So what are we really saying?
This harkens to my question about the previous, because I noticed that a public hearing was required for the preliminary plat. So I thought, maybe this is procedurally required part, so that if,
So we're not
Here.
concerned about having a preliminary plat. We're concerned about approving a preliminary plat,
right,
just the approval
but I'm
process.
saying that if it requires a public hearing, so you need something that's been embraced, or I won't say approved or something, that to put forward.
Accepted?
Well, it's really no different than the town board bringing forward a local law. So the town board agrees that it's going to have a public hearing on this local law.
Right, it's in.
And that's the extent of, that's the only action the town board takes. It doesn't say we accept it, doesn't say anything. We're just bringing this forward for a public hearing. So that's what this group would do on a preliminary plat. And then we would get the information, and it's important that we have it to construct the final plat,
So then you would present that for the public hearing.
the preliminary plat.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I would say our,
So you don't-
agreement that it's a substantially complete application,
Okay,
because that's also in
so
this.
what you're looking for is not like a formally adopted preliminary,
Right.
No,
Right.
no,
We'll receive it.
but somehow you would agree that it's ready for showtime.
it's ready for review.
Okay,
The application is complete enough that it is ready for review.
I'm just wondering, I mean, what's it gonna eliminate in terms of your headaches or your process?
We're not approving. We never approved the preliminary plat.
Just don't use the word approved.
Right,
So we move the
Why?
word approve and the process to approve it.
Right.
like,
I wanna make sure I understand.
well, to me, it's, all right, so from what they originally submit to what we finally approve, there might be 100 iterations.
Right,
What's the preliminary?
well, and this is
Flat.
saying, if those iterations result in the final plat being substantially different from the preliminary, then it's kind of a big deal. And
I know, but each time they submit those iterations is because they're responding to either something we've said, a recommendation,
yeah,
question or whatever, or
and probably most of
or
those
public,
happen early.
or a public comment.
Yeah.
Or, something along those lines, in which case, hopefully it's moving in the direction of what we ultimately want.
Right,
If it's very far from what they originally submitted, but it's in the direction that we want, great.
So, yeah, we start out with a sketch plan and
Yeah.
we work with them and then they submit something. But I would say that the process, whenever we have the public hearing, is after we've had discussions with the developer. Because we're picking up things and we're trying to stay with the process and with the review criteria.
Yeah.
People in the crowd may have other things that they're concerned about. And they can be watching our process and providing us comments, but we hold a public hearing on the preliminary plat that we agree is ready for public comment.
okay,
Right.
And then we continue to chew on it with the developer and then,
Mhm.
and just like the town board does, whenever there's a local law, they chew on it after they get comments. They may make some changes, but that's, and then they go ahead and adopt it. Approve the final plat.
great, okay. I think I got it.
And then you have to have a public hearing on that plot.
On the final plat,
That's what it says.
then we do it, then we do.
Okay.
Let's see,
Number one, public hearing.
I'm reading that, let's see. You only have to do that if it's not in substantial agreement,
Only, oh, that's right, only if it's not in substantial agreement.
right? So if it's in substantial agreement, you're pretty
We're
much
done.
done.
Okay, so if,
They've already seen it. We've already done a public hearing on something that they've seen, and there might be minor changes, but
good, okay,
yeah.
Okay.
What's substantial? Real good.
do I get to say de minimis? Because I always love saying that.
That is a great word.
It isn't, it's just a great phrase, isn't it? Just throw that out there.
So when we're working our way through the end of section 700, it talks about clerk of the board.
Yes,
We've never had one. Just put
no,
that- I
I've been
just put
assured
that
that
on.
I've been assured that we will.
We
And-
appointed one
And
at
it's
the
not
last
gonna be
meeting.
me.
Yeah.
So
I
I asked Craig if he wanted to
Yeah.
work for tonight, so I did make the overture, so.
And I said, no, I thought tonight we can handle the notes. I thought it
No,
better,
I'm.
yeah.
It's just we've never had
But
one in the past.
But
so.
we will.
be great.
which I think is good.
And I'm glad that you didn't have one tonight, because Jesse let me know that her daughter had a recital tonight, so.
Oh, okay.
Seems really
Well,
secondary to what we're doing here.
Well,
Priorities.
I thought it'd be easier for us to
To the
I
fact,
have no
and
problem.
understand and
Yeah.
rephrase it, so.
makes sense.
Okay.
Um,
So what we're trashing now is having a hearing, whether a hearing needs to be done if two hearings need to be, at the preliminary, at the stage of the preliminary plat, which hasn't been approved formally. And how do we have to have a plat, a hearing for the final plat?
only if it's substantially different from the original submission.
So we would just change the wording of an approved preliminary plat.
Mm.
So if it's substantially different than the original application, okay.
Then what was reviewed at the hearing?
Right.
Yeah,
So it is a little after 9.
but I think we finished section 7.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Do we want to call it a night? Do we feel like we need another meeting for the remainder of the law, or do we feel like?
You want to give it another 20 minutes and see if we can get through it?
That's only me. Is it unreasonable for us to go through and read it and again and send an email of one of our questions, or do you wanna, is that realistic?
That's why I was just trying to look through it quickly and see if it seemed reasonable.
I'm getting hungry, I get real cranky.
I meant to bring snacks, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think this is very administrative and there's not as many changes as there are in some other parts.
right,
Yeah, I have a couple of comments in the 900 section, but
We can push on.
I can send them to you.
I have some of the 800, but nothing major.
Okay,
If we feel like we've kind of hit the major topics
Sure.
and maybe we can cover the rest in email, then we can do that.
okay.
All right,
And
and that,
We're going from 800 on down in the email.
yes.
yeah, and I'm going to, let me look at my calendar so that I have some sense of when I can do this, but I have to do it
Yeah.
soon because otherwise it'll mean nothing.
It'd be de minimis.
It would be way de minimis.
Very good.
Actually, I can probably write these up on Friday morning. So I can try to get them to you by Saturday.
Right,
Okay.
I'm gonna Google
excellent,
what
thank you.
definitive means.
Tell me, because I'm just making it up.
Very de minimis. Oh, pertaining to minimal things.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a Latin.
it's Latin, yeah.
Very good. Nice to see everybody.
The meeting on the 29th, Mark, is,
Yeah,
Nan.
and what are we,
fine doing.
Oh,
what's the agenda for that meeting?
I mean, it'll be kind of what you were talking about is, you guys are all signed up for Monday's meeting in Lansing, right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah,
or
and
some-
him.
Some of you are, but then that one's on, site plan review and then, variances, I think, so. The one on the 29th is the interplay between, what you guys, site plan review, subdivision review, and the zoning law. So,
We get to grill Nan on how this all works.
Here,
so Nan's gonna be by Zoom, it'll be a Zoom meeting, but I won't host it here.
it's a 20
For
member.
anybody that wants to come here, but.
It feels kind of silly.
It was-
Like I sit on my couch, but my house is across from the dandy, so it just feels really dumb to be when y'all are here. I'm right there.
oh, the popcorn can be right there too.
And the dog, we got a
And the
new puppy, so the puppy can be there.
I'm sorry, you can't have a puppy because you don't live at.
I don't know if my house is owned for 2 puppies.
Like a football game, you'll have
So,
a blackout area.
So,
Remind me
yeah,
which day
so I really appreciate this.
training is.
The board next,
Is it the night before?
yeah, we, for tonight, the board will be discussing the zone or the subdivision law revision, so, if I have your comments by then, we can work that in as well.
Okay.
I don't see why we wouldn't, it would be helpful, I think.
Yeah.
so.
There's a procedural question, as the alternate, when we all call for votes in these meetings, do I have a vote?
When the answer to that is, for today's meeting, I don't think it really matters,
Right.
but if you were reviewing a project, you're standing,
Right, only if someone can't make it that day.
yeah.
Okay.
Or for whatever reason,
Yeah.
refusal for some reason or something like that.
Cool.
Financial interests in the project.
Project,
something
yeah.
like that.
And
Now, hold on that.
yeah, I don't know how, so, and I don't know how we wanna work that as far as. Would you be expected to come to all the meetings? Just because like larger projects are gonna be multiple
Right,
meetings, multiple months then.
I certainly, I want to, because I have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, all right, yeah,
And I-
yeah,
I-
so it might
I
be,
think that's a great answer.
it might be
Yeah.
informational for you, whether you're paying attention to the project or not, you
Yeah.
can see how the whole.
I just want to have a sense of what's happening.
Yeah, great,
May
okay.
13th.
And if I
May
get really
13th,
bored, I
6 to
can-
9.
Yeah.
You can eat.
Yeah.
I can bring a-
Well, it's, you know,
Especially if you get
the
hungry,
Shakey's is
you always
open
get
across the
that.
street.
I am waiting to try that.
We had it tonight. It's
Oh, did you?
excellent.
Yeah,
Oh, the juicy.
Great,
yeah.
Yeah, it's really
yeah, I'm
good.
looking forward to it.
Nice.
See, I wonder if he's probably closing out.
Yeah, I think he was open
Yeah.
at noon time today and then from 4 to 7.
It's worth
That's
going on
good.
Facebook because he changes his.
Oh,
when he's-
every
It's been
day.
very,
Well, the
very.
wild thing is that I can see it from my window, and I don't know if it's open. Because I'm on the other side of the tree. I'm on, so like,
Oh,
I
so
see
you
the thing, and I can't.
You need to
it's
see the
open.
sign
You need
now.
to
I
set
just
up a,
noticed the sign.
Okay.
you need a mirror set up.
Yeah, like way down at the end.
Nice.
Should be able to smell
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can look on Facebook
okay.
and I think he's on Instagram, but I'm not. so.
I'm actually not on any of those things.
Ah.
I
Good
don't
for
have a
you.
single one.
Good for you.
I feel like I've accomplished something there.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Okay,
Great,
Very
thanks so much,
good. Thank you.
everybody. Yeah,
great.
great.
Meeting adjourned.
it. Yay.
I'll try to get,
9:13, okay.
Sure.
but there's a few.
The recording.
Well,